Welcome back students. Today we will continue the remaining topics from part B chapter 1. So let's start. State of major economic sectors. So the first point is state of agriculture. Agricultural sector became very low, and this stagnation in agricultural sector was mainly due to the system of land settlement that were introduced by the British government. The Zamindari system, the profit accruing out of the agricultural sector went to Zamindars instead of the cultivators. This led to discouragement amongst the cultivator to produce less. And agricultural sector was mainly dependent on monsoon. No effort was ever made under the British rule to develop permanent means of irrigation. And there was a low level of technology, lack of irrigation facility, and negligible use of fertilizer added to aggravate the plight of the farmers and contribute to the dismal level of agricultural productivity. Point number 2. Industrial sector. Due to policy of deindustrialization, Indian handicraft industries declined. The decline of indigenous handicraft industries created not only massive unemployment in India but also a new demand in the Indian consumer market, which was profitably met by increasing import of cheap manufactured goods from Britain. In India, modern industries started coming up during the second half of the 19th century, but the progress remained very slow. Initially, these industries were confined to cotton and jute textile mills. Subsequently, the iron and steel industries began coming up in the beginning of 20th century. The Tata Iron and Steel Companies was set up in 1907. A few other industries like sugar, cement, paper, etc. came up after the Second World War. There was a lack of capital good industry, and a capital good industry are those industries which can produce machine tools etc. and which are in turn used for producing articles for current consumption. During British rule, there was hardly any capital good industry to promote further industrialization in India. The growth rate of Indian industrial sector and its contribution to the gross domestic product remained very slow. The area of operation of the public sector was very limited, and it remained confined only to the railway, power generation, communication, ports and some other department undertakings. Point number 3. Foreign trade. Due to discriminative tariff policy adopted by the British government, India became net exporter of raw materials and primary products. On the other hand, it became net importers of finished goods reproduced by the British industry. Composition of exports and imports shows the backwardness of Indian economy. Exports and imports were largely restricted to Britain only due to monopoly controls of India's foreign trade. Surplus profit made an account of foreign trade during the British rule was distributed on administrative and as well as on war expenses. It was only used to increase the pursuit of the British government. Point number 4. Infrastructure. There was some infrastructural development during the British in the area of transport and communication. Introduction of railway was a major breakthrough, followed by the development of some ports and the construction of some roads. But the main motive of the British government was to foster the interests of the British government rather than to accelerate the growth of Indian economy. There was transition from barter system of exchange to monetary system of exchange, which facilitated divisions of labor and large-scale production. Point number 5. Demographic structure. High birth and death rate implies low survival rate, which was nearly 8 per thousand per annum. Life expectancy was as low as 32 years, which shows the lack of health care facility, lack of awareness, as well as lack of means for health care. Literacy rate was as low as 16%, which reflect the social and economic backwardness of the country. Point number 6. Occupational structure. Agriculture was the principal source of occupation, and about 72.7% of working population was engaged in agriculture. Only 10.1% of the working population were engaged in the manufacturing sector, which shows the backwardness of Indian industry at the time of independence. Only 17.2% of the working population were engaged in the service sector, which also proved the slow growth of tertiary sector at the time of independence. There was an unbalanced growth of Indian economy at the time of independence. So students, with these topics, chapter 1 ends. Thank you.